Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my top 10 favorite Damascus steel pocket knives in my collection. Now when I say Damascus, I am referring to modern pattern welded performance Damascus, like your Damasteel, your Damacor. And yes, technically it is not the same as original Wootz Damascus steel. We've all heard the legends of the mysterious Wootz steel. So Wootz is the original. That's the original Damascus, and while we don't really know exactly how they made it, we do understand what it is and what it is capable of, and it turns out it is nowhere near as capable as modern pattern welded performance oriented Damascus as some of the stuff that I mentioned. So yes, you are correct, it's technically not original Wootz, right? But we really don't need to discuss that because we're all pretty familiar with that. So yeah, all modern stuff today. I want to share with you guys my favorites and talk about each knife because I've never actually done this video. Unfortunately, most of these are extremely rare and or extremely expensive. I will link down in the description where you can find some of these occasionally, but most of the stuff on this list is going to be pretty hard to get your hands on. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me. Let's start off here with my first one. We're going to go with the final knife being the most beautiful, right? So think of this from the perspective as a collector. This is my Shiragorov and Tom Mayo Arctic Dr. Death. I think only 100 of these were made quite a while back. It has the silver Alatex. This is your pretty straightforward Damasteel, right? This is made by the Damasteel company. It's RWL 34 and PMC 27. Ultimately, the blade performs very similarly to CPM 154, which is pretty great, but you get this awesome pattern. This is probably the least impressive high-end Damascus knife that I own, but at the same time I kind of feel like the dullness, not the dullness, but like the flatness, the lack of excessive polishing actually works really well. What's really happening the most for this knife is the Dr. Death profile, which is very famous, of course, through Tom Mayo. It's pretty rare to see a Damasteel one, and I think to me it's just absolutely insane to see the Shiragorov version of it. So I think that going with like a very acidy edge and making the blade darker, or on the flip side, going super reflective like some of the stuff you're gonna see here, I think that would actually be doing this design a disservice. I think it actually looks really great just the way that it is. Really happy to have this one in my collection. Moving on here to number 9, a knife that really only ever comes out on live streams, and that is my Skiff Drifter with the Damacor blade. Now I love the Drifter profile. In fact, I love Skiff knives in general. These are made in the United States, and this particular one is Damacor. Again, made by the Damasteel company. This is the version of Damacor that has the VanX core. There's 2 different versions of Damacor, and I'm going to show you. Actually, they probably have more, but there's 2 main versions of Damacor that we see in a lot of these high-end knives. And this is the super performance version. Typically how you can tell is the performance version is not going to take nearly as much of a polish. The cladding here, these pieces right, if we look down the center, you can actually see it has a core. So we have a jacket, so to speak, of Damasteel. So the jacket itself is made out of what the entire blade is made out of. And this guy, we have RWL 34 and PMC 27 as the jacket, and then the core it's basically VanX, but it's Damasteel's version of VanX. So that's a pretty ridiculous composition here, and mainly, like as far as like who would need this for performance, well, nobody, right? But it is very cool to have all of these things together, and I think this is another one that really just complete like the total aesthetic. Well, it's not like my absolute most beautiful knife in my opinion, it's all very subjective. I think that kind of this medium satin finish on this guy just looks perfect with everything else in coordination with, of course, we have the zirconium Damascus pivot collar and pocket clip back here, just really cool. This was we're not going to be focusing on price today. I don't think that's really what we need to be talking about. We're just going to be focusing on the blades. But I do absolutely love this one. As soon as it was available, I knew I had to own it, absolutely. This next one here, number 8, is one that I almost never talk about, but I absolutely love this guy. I think this might have only recently completely sold out. So this is a Sharp by Design. It's the mini Evo Typhoon or the micro Evo Typhoon. It's the smaller guy, but this has the Damascus inlay here. I think it's actually a Mochatai inlay. And then this is Damasteel, but you'll notice here that there are no real dark parts. It's also a really, really interesting pattern. This knife was actually given to me by Brian Nadeau, just as a thank you. I am a very vocal supporter of Brian Nadeau and his work. I think he makes some of the greatest knives ever, and I absolutely love them. I have never had an affiliate link for Sharp by Design knives, like direct through Sharp by Design. Never. I just legitimately always absolutely love his work. So he sent me this as a surprise thank you. And so this is Damasteel. It's the same composition as this guy, but you can see these darker areas here. The etch brought out the darkness in the composition that resists corrosion not quite as well. I think the darker areas would be RWL 34, right? The PMC 27, the nickel-based composition is the one that polished up. So what happened here is they let it etch and eat away at that composition that resists corrosion not quite as well, and so that it ate into it, right? It created depth with that composition in the pattern welding, and then they go back and they polish everything so that you have this sort of no etch look. I think this is epic. This is some of my favorite in terms of the aesthetic. I think it is so cool. And on this knife, you know, initially it almost looks like just like a polished blade until you get up and look close, which I love. I think this is so cool. I have other examples of this, but I really, really love this knife. It's definitely one of my favorites in my collection. Moving on here, 1098, number 7. This is an absolutely wild one. Holy moly. This is the Lesbar Aviator Bifrost. Wow. Some of the most technical machining I have ever seen in a knife. You can pick up the Aviator Bifrost. I think they actually have a couple on Polish Custom Knives, so I'll link that down in the description. This is kind of like in between the first two. It's a much higher, we still have the etched areas. This is Damasteel, by the way. Beautiful mirror edge on this guy. We still have the darker areas, but the lighter areas have been thoroughly polished. In fact, it's like the darker areas, I'm having trouble determining which are actually the darker areas. You can see the variance in the pattern, but it's all been polished, which is pretty incredible. So it's kind of hard to decide which I like best. If I like kind of the flat, non-reflective etched, right, or the mildly reflective, fully polished without the darker zones, or kind of the satin finish of like the drifter here. This is a much higher, not quite a mirror, but it's very, very close. I mean, a lot of people I think would describe this as mirror Damasteel. If it's not quite a perfect mirror, it is exceptionally close, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Next up here, would it be number 6? We've got to talk about Herman. You know that there's going to be a bunch of there's a few different Hermans on this list. This is a Herman Slim in full titanium Damascus. It actually has, I almost said it, Damasteel backspacer. It's titanium Damascus clip and backspacer there. But this is another example of, I guess to be lazy, we're going to call it a zero etch. An extremely high polish near mirror zero etch, much like the micro or the mini Evo Typhoon. We have a different pattern here, and I think perhaps even a deeper, like where the acid ate into it, it's a little bit deeper. And yeah, you can feel it. It's not crazy deep like some people might expect, but you can feel it. I think that this is absolutely stunning. It was hard for me to, having these in order from I don't want to say least to most beautiful. I want to say beautiful to most insanely beautiful. It was really hard to place these. I kept having to switch them around because there are elements of this that I like more than the Sharp by Design, but there are elements of the Sharp by Design that I like more than this. But this is just another Damasteel. It's just the pattern is a little different in how they decided to polish it. I think it's absolutely stunning. I had to have that one. Next up, we're actually going to be looking at something different. Number 5 is another Herman knife. This is a really unique one. It's such a weird one in my collection. This is black Damascus. So we have the zirconium in, the scales here, but it's all been like muted. It's really deep, sort of earthy, almost like a magma. It's not quite as polished. We have a more polished clip there for contrast, but the blade is from a company called Baalbek Damast. This is insane. It almost looks like peacock feathers, right? With the little spirals in there, but it's been hyper polished, and there are no dark zones. Really, really crazy. This is an exceptionally unique blade. What this makes me think of is have you ever been in a building or a hotel that has like a really, really clean sort of window ceiling and it's raining? That's what it makes me think of, is seeing especially when it's raining hard, you can see all of those, those drops hitting and creating those little ripples on top of the glass as you look through the ceiling. That's kind of what this makes me think of, or perhaps rain on a glass table outside when it's, not windy, it's just sort of raining straight down. That's kind of what it makes me think of. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now, how this performs is a little bit of a mystery. I believe it's either a Lema or Baalbek that is owned by Sandvik or bought out Sandvik. I can't remember. It's really keeping all of this information accurate in my head is very difficult. So somebody in the comments can correct me. But as far as which compositions make up Baalbek Damast, or what they are most similar to, I have no idea. Most of the time when we're talking about, this end of the knife world, we're talking about your premium Damascus, the performance will range anywhere from, your VG10 core Damascus or Sanmai is very, very common. It'll range anywhere from there all the way up to, a lot of Chad Nichols stuff, for example, is a combination of two super steels. So you'll get all the way up there into Crazy Town, right? So I would venture to guess that this probably performs very similarly to Damasteel, given that, if it is on the way back end, if it's only as basic as something like VG10 or VG10 Core Sanmai, that's pretty similar actually to 154CM, which really isn't that far off from CPM 154, which is the exact performance that's going to be mimicked by Damasteel. So I know that's a lot of confusing information, but my guess is it's pretty well hardened and it's probably going to perform similarly to Damasteel. In this case, the reason that it's a part of this knife is not necessarily just for performance, but the aesthetic is meant to complement the overall, the luxurious nature of the design and the execution of Herman knives, etc., etc. Really, really cool. And for my final Herman knife in this group, the most insane Herman knife that I own. This is crazy. It's always a crowd favorite on live streams. This is another Slim. This has legitimately, it actually looks like peacock feathers on the front, but it's a black Damascus on the front, and then there's a little bit of a different sort of purpley, magenta, orange, blue on the back. The blade is also Baalbek Damast, but this has split groups. This is so crazy. I imagine it's multiple, each one of these sections individually is a different bar of the same pattern. And then they made a blade. Instead of turning the bar this way, they took a bunch of bars and pattern welded them together and then forged it. But I could be wrong about that. I mean, some of these patterns actually look like they connect or go together, as if it is all part of the same bar. It could be that individually in between there are multiple layers. It's really hard to say exactly what's going on, but you can see that the sections are also up here on the spine, which is neat. I have never seen a Damascus blade like this. Again, I know the Woots guys are just like, oh, how dare he disgrace the origin of Damascus. Our mediocre ancient steel that's nothing by today's standard and has been thoroughly studied and found to be pretty basic. Yeah, I mean, like, I know people love to get into the history and the origin of that, but it's just like what most people who are telling those stories fail to mention is that it's really not that spectacular by today's standards. So it's more so just an attractive, fun story for people who've not heard about it. But it's okay. Like, if that's what you're into, that's fine. I'm not coming down on anybody. Really, really crazy stuff. I love how this looks. I bought it specifically because I had never seen anything like this before, and I'd also never heard of Balbach Damas. Now, I'm not sure why Herman doesn't seem to be doing as many blades, or really any. I haven't seen any here lately with Balbach. I've seen some with Alema. I used to have one with Alema Damax, but yeah, this is, I've held on to this one and the Mantis. If I didn't say that, this one here was a Mantis. I've held on to these and not, traded or sold them, mostly because I'm not sure if they'll do it again. I don't know what they go through to, get this stuff. Maybe Balbach doesn't make it super duper often. I have no idea. But it is definitely one of my most beautiful and one of my favorites. We're getting into the real crazy stuff here. Moving on here to number 8. An absolutely stunning, completely off to excuse my fingerprints. This is oil slick zirconium, and it is a fingerprint magnet along with the blade. It's almost impossible to keep this thing perfectly polished. But this is a fully handmade Francois du Toit TF4. It's a South African custom knife. Everything about this knife is really cool. In fact, even the pocket clip in the back, the back spacer is Damacor and the pocket clip is Damas steel. The blade, this is the Damacor where the core is RWL 34, which takes a polish, I guess, a little easier. The RWL 34 and the, so we have, this is funny. The way I understand it is made by the Damas Steel Company. Jacket is Damas Steel, so RWL 34 and PMC 27, and then the core is RWL 34, and then they, as you can see here, the jacket, everything, the edge, all of this. I'm getting so excited that I have spit on my knife again. The whole thing is polished. It's a mirror polished Damacor. This was the first of this type of blade that I had ever had in my collection. This is so shiny it's actually causing the camera to dim. But this is a constant crowd favorite. It's something that I've shown in many videos, and again, it usually only comes out for live streams. I think this side arguably is even more beautiful. Some people really don't like the high polishing. I do. I tend to gravitate towards that, but I can understand why people don't think it looks as good as some of like the real acidy kind of Chad Nichols super dark stuff. I get that. I need to add some of that to my collection as well. But really a huge fan of this one. This is a truly insane knife, and it was a full custom build. This was me, when it was my turn to make an order. He said, what do you want? I said, can we do full zirconium, maybe with some blue accents, and let's do a mirror Damacor blade. And he did this, and I think executed it better than I could have ever hoped for. Really love this knife. Highly recommendable custom knives too, by the way. Number 2, a very recent acquisition. Very, very recent. This is just an absolutely wild combination of things. This is the Null Knives Vandal with crystal titanium and absolutely insane Damas steel for the blade. This is again a zero etch or a double polished Damas steel blade, but it looks like chrome fire. This I don't know how else to explain it. It looks like glass flames on the blade. It's absolutely insane. This is such a crazy, ultra busy pattern. So beautiful. And within, on the blade, we have a zone right here, this little fuller that's carved out. And that area is not polished intentionally for contrast. Now, the blade combined with the crystallized titanium and the anodized crystallized titanium back here, it's just crazy. This is crazy. It's one of the most insane acquisitions of 2025 for me. I am just beside myself. These are made by Riot. I think that this is honestly Null's greatest creation. It is just so spectacular. And I know only a few of you managed to snag this one. This was the launch exclusive, and there were only a few. I think mine is serial number 30. I don't know how many he made. Maybe it was exactly 30. Who knows? But yeah, an absolutely wild addition to my collection. I love that. I'm obsessed with this blade. It is absolutely disgusting. Before we get to number one, I am going to throw in an honorable mention here because beautiful is probably not the way that most people would describe this one. It is rare. It is kind of ridiculous. This is my PMP Alpha Beast, one of only 5 in existence of the original run, not the new Italian-made ones. The original run made by Riot with a Damascus blade. This is a ridiculously thick knife, and I think one of the thickest stocks of Damascus in existence. But it's, I think, 400 thousandths. Yeah. So approaching half an inch. That's insane. Multiple Damascus knives could have been made out of this, but they chose to make 5. 5 Alpha Beasts. Why? It looks like a useless knife? You're right. But it's cool. And it's definitely rare. I think mine is serial number 2. No idea who owns the other ones. But this is a fun one, which is a crazy one. It's been a crazy part of my collection for a long time. Not quite something I think it deserves to be on the top 10 list, but I still had to make it a part of this video. At number 1, I think everybody pretty much knows what this is. Number 1 is it's not only the most beautiful Damascus blade, it's the most beautiful knife that I own. I had to wait a long time for this. This is my Dalibor Bergam, handmade, full custom, out of Croatia, Dalibor Bergam, unnamed. This is a special one because not only is it an integral, but this is a material that Dalibor makes himself called Daltanium. It's commercially pure, 2 different compositions of commercially pure titanium. Well, I'm not sure exactly how that would work. It's commercially pure titanium, but the way that it's combined allows it to anodize at different rates to bring out the colors, and then a lot of thick, chunky zirconium in there as well. He also makes his own San Mai blades. So this is a Dalibor Bergam mirror-polished, handmade, handcrafted San Mai, and then he's ground it into this absolutely insane blade shape. It almost looks like tire tread on the top part there. I have never seen anything like this. He made this entirely, by hand for me, custom made for me. I requested all of this. I said, let's go, thick and do the integral and all that. An absolutely insane piece, and one of my favorite knives in my collection. And certainly, while a lot of people may not define this as beautiful, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. As a knife collector, who is still climbing his own ladder, but I absolutely love this aesthetic. This is insane. I love the almost mutated, like a Strider knife that's been exposed to gamma radiation kind of thing. I just love the absolutely ridiculous wicked recurve. It's almost, gives me the reason that it looks similar in some ways to the Borka stitch is because Borka and Dalibor are actually super good buddies. I think actually Dalibor has made a stitch in collaboration with Borka before. But anyways, just a truly spectacular piece, and I think my most stunning, whether you love it or hate it, it is certainly the most eye-catching blade that I've got out here. So I don't think these will all fit on the table. I'll try to get them all back out. But I wanted to do this because I realized I had not done a top 10 in my collection for Damascus blades ever. A lot of these have appeared in different categories, like my most expensive or just my favorite all around. But I've never specifically isolated it to the Damascus stuff. And I do still love, Damasteel, Damacor, different combinations of things like that. We're actually just going to have to probably zoom back out a bit to make room for everything. But I'm definitely not done acquiring stuff like this. This is going to be probably a pretty major part of my knife collecting journey for the foreseeable future, right? Doesn't have to be, Damasteel or Damascus or anything like that, but it certainly is something that sways me often. Let me know what you think. Do you like this stuff? Do you have Damascus, I mean, again, modern pattern welded. Again, those guys, the Woots guys are just... but yeah, let me know if you've got knives like this in your collection. If you like this, if you like low polish, high polish, right? More acidy Chad Nichols. Let me know. It's always fun to hear what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed this video. That's going to be it today. Links in the description for things that you can occasionally acquire. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. If you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.